Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to my shop. Today I'm busy converting my basement stairs from carpet to oak. I want them solid oak so they match the stairs in the upper part of the house. So let me show you the process that I'm going through to do this conversion. It's a lot of work, but it's quite doable. So let's go and let's look at the progress. So here are the basement stairs. About 25 years ago when I finished the basement, we had the steps carpeted. And the carpets held up pretty well for all these years, considering one of the kids had his room down here and my workshop is in the basement. Before the steps were carpeted, you can see I painted them. But now it's time to convert them to oak. And here's what I've done. First of all, I think I'll start here. I started at the landing. Now this is purchased flooring. This is the exact same 3¼ inch flooring that the entire house is done in, including the steps going upstairs. And to do that, I had to remove the trim, the baseboard trim, because this wood tucks underneath the trim. And I had to make a bullnose piece, a nose piece. And this is 1 inch, because the steps going upstairs have a 1 inch exposure on them. But the wood itself is 3/4. The flooring store might have had that, but I elected to make that. So I started with the landing, tore the carpet off, of course, and hey, that's one of the worst parts. And I removed all of the trim pieces, even these little tiny ones, so I could get the wood underneath. And I did the landing first. One thing I'll point out, let me back up a ways. I'm not going to put a cord around there because the upstairs isn't done that way. The contractor that built this house didn't do it that way. So I'm not going to do it that way either. But I could. But the boards fit tightly, so there's no real reason. So here's the process. Oops, let me turn the corner here and show you the steps all the way. The mop hangs there, don't worry about that. But let me show you the process that I went through. First of all, you have to have the parts. Here are the stair treads. You can see I always keep them stacked up, clamped down and tight so they don't get ideas. Here's one that I have ready to cut. It'll take 2 cuts, because don't think for a second these things are square. This wood has some nice quarter sawn pattern, and I'll tell you about that. Same story with the risers. You have to have the risers, and here are all the risers. They're 5/16 of an inch thick, and a standard width, and a standard length for construction. Now I'm going to tell you about the process. I made all of these, and I made all of these. And it's quite a long process. The process started with going to a friend's sawmill, rolling the log into the sawmill, cutting the boards. Then I left with boards that had already been dried. Each 8-foot board you cut into 2 pieces, so I was able to cut around split ends and knots and things like that. Took an enormous amount of work with the joiner, putting 1 straight edge on the rough sawn board. Then they had to be glued together. Then they're cut to width, they're jointed, they're planed. It takes an awful lot of work. They're all edge glued. Each one has 4 coats of poly on the top, 1 coat on the bottom. And that just gets them to a standard shape. Then they have to be cut to fit, such as this one right here. I'm going to make a cut here and a cut there. So if you're making your own treads and risers like I did, it's an awful lot of work. But it's really rewarding. I'm glad I did it. It was a fun winter project or fall project. It took me maybe about a month to make all of these parts, and I'm sure glad I did, because look at the quality I have now. Just incredible. So let's go back to the stairwell. And yes, I should add this fact about the pieces. You can simply go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards and buy all of them too. But they're quite expensive, and it's much more satisfying to make them yourself. So let's go through the process that I'm going through. First of all, you have to remove the old carpet. That's glued down. And that's probably the worst part. Oh, I hate removing carpet. Then when the carpet is off and you've scraped all the glue off and stuff, you have to remove the nose. Here, let me go up to this stair. I have one that's open yet. You can see I just took my jigsaw and came along and make it cut. It's real easy to do. And it's kind of nice that these stop about an inch short of this trim board, the skirting, because that's right where the blade of the jigsaw stops. And then if it isn't quite perfect, I just take a hand plane and clean it up. I could also use my router with a long flush trim bit. That's how a professional would do it. But I have all the time in the world, so I just clean that up with a hand plane. Then you have to put the riser board in, the 5/16 riser. Let's come down here. I think I'll get better light. This riser is in. Here's the wood flooring from the landing. This riser, this 5/16 riser, is in place. And it fits in there like that. And they have to be trimmed. Although I made these a standard width, they're all about an 1/8 inch too high. Sometimes like a 1/16 of an inch on one end and 1/8 inch on the other end. There's nothing straight about these stairs. Everything is not square. So these have to be trimmed to fit. I do that with a hand plane. Then once you have the riser in, you can see I have one stair in, or one tread it's called. And there again, these have to be cut every angle. None of these will be 90 degrees. This won't be 90. This side actually was 90. This side is not 90, but you have to cut them, and then you have to cut them to the correct width so they fit. Then to nail them down, I made a jig. Each tread is going to get 8 nails. And I made this jig so I never have to measure. I don't want to measure ever. But all of the nails will be precisely in the same place. So you can see I have this riser already in. This one I don't have in yet because I wanted to leave it out for the video. This one's in, this one's in, and this one was a custom riser. He was 5/8 of an inch thick because of this molding, this carpet adapter. And I left this here because he's underneath, or he's behind the flooring on the main floor. It would have been difficult to remove him, so I just made a piece of 5/8 inch flooring, or 5/8 inch riser. So that's in. So very soon I'll be able to have this. And the reason this one is done first, I'll be honest with you, is I started on this one and it didn't fit very well. I wasn't happy with the fit, but it fit really well here, so I put it there. So that's kind of the long process I'm going through, and then I'm going to end up with nice oak stairs that look like that. But what about the handrail? Let's talk about the handrail for a second. These are poplar. And I don't want that. I want oak. And you can see on the other one too. This is the 8-foot handrail going down. So you could just go to Home Depot or Menards and buy the oak railing. But I'm going to do something different. Let me explain. This oak railing, this poplar railing that is existing, is about an 1/8 inch smaller in diameter than the railing that's used on the stairs going upstairs. and I'd like them to match. Maybe I could order the correct stuff from Home Depot, but the oak railing that Menards has on hand is this same stuff, only oak, but it's undersized. It's this size. And I want it a little bit wider in diameter, to be honest with you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to veneer the handrail. Here's a piece that I got. This is from Home Depot. Now this is undersized a little bit, but here I've already taken, and by the way, this is cut at 22.5 degrees and this is cut at 45 degrees, and that's how the hand railings are made. I've already laminated this piece, or maybe not laminated, I veneered it is a better word, and it looks and feels fantastic. And then that veneering added a little bit of width to it, and now it's perfect. But to make that, you have to have patterns. Here's an exact pattern of what it takes to veneer this. Here's the exact pattern. In fact, that was the pattern that was used to make this veneer. And to do the longer piece, here is the exact pattern. That's, by the way, that's the pattern of the geometric shape for a round doll cut at 22.5 degrees. And this is precisely the right length. So I'm going to use this pattern to make a piece of veneer, just like I did right here on the ends. I practiced, and I'm going to veneer the handrails. This one is about 3.5 feet long. It won't be too bad. The other one's 8 feet long. That'll be a challenge, but I think I'm up to it. So back to the steps. There's 12 steps. There's a landing, and there's 14 risers. So I have the landing 100% done. I have quite a few of the risers already installed. And I have one of 12. There's 12 treads. I have one of 12 in already. And it's glued down and nailed down. So it's a start. Here's my pile of treads that I handmade, each and every one. I just wanted to show one little detail before I forget. The way this house was made, these treads have a 1-inch exposure. And they did that, I did it by putting a 1/4-inch strip on, rather than making these 1 inch and then machining them down. So this is 3/4, actually it's 11/16, and I did that for a reason, and then 1/4. And that makes the 1-inch exposure for the bull nose. And then the riser, of course, hides right behind there. So there's my pile of treads. Here's the next one ready to be cut. And the risers are already cut. They're resting comfortably under pressure so they don't get ideas of their own. Well, thank you for watching. I think that pretty much documents the process and shows you all the parts and pieces and the steps that are necessary. I've been working on this perhaps a month already, making those pieces. I've been in the stairwell about a week working on the landing and making ready and tearing out the carpet. And when I say work, it's 3 or 4 hours a day. It's not an 8-hour thing. And I'm going to try to get the top few stairs done before Christmas. It's mid-December right now. And this is my wintertime project. Once again, this is Brian. Thank you for watching. Goodbye now.